Jacob and his roommates, who were sitting with him in class, also heard the little whispers around them. Sam nudged Jacob with his elbow and said, "It seems like someone is getting quite popular." "Whatever," replied Jacob, and lifted his book to hide his face from the annoying glances. Jacob was now being recognized as Michael's arch-rival and Susan's boyfriend, and any one of those topics resulted in him being in the center of attention, and he hated it. He had been an introvert all his life. He was peacefully living in the shadows, but all this prying and whispers were really starting to get to him. He knew he couldn't do anything. If he did, he would just make it worse. So he took a deep breath and decided to not be bothered by all the paparazzi. But the conversations continued. "I think that Michael will teach him a good lesson." "I bet Susan will be even more sympathetic towards Jacob after that." "Michael is so vicious. He called you out for a fight and then spread the news so that everyone would know," Sam commented with a frown. "Ignore him. He is a parasite who lives off this attention," said Jacob as he rested his head on the desk. For some weird reason, he felt tired and wanted to take a nap after breaking through the second level of the spirit concentration scroll. He was in a hurry when he left Susan's office and didn't ask her if feeling tired was normal after a breakthrough. Compared to the complex and fascinating dragon world he had entered, Jacob felt that the whole rivalry thing between him and Michael was too trivial for his attention. Why would a man who had hundreds of millions of dollars care if he lost $20 on the street? "Susan can easily destroy me if I don't work hard on my cultivation. In front of her, Michael's threats seem childish. She is the real danger." Jacob sighed and clutched his head in his hands. Cultivation was the only thing he could think about now. Fortunately, today he was sitting right next to the window at the back of the class. Jacob regulated his breathing and re-entered the second level of the spirit concentration scroll as he carefully tried to understand the essence of heaven and earth. The nature's essence around him was now being absorbed by his body. The parts that couldn't be fully absorbed were tossed out. This process repeated itself continuously. Jacob found that the dragon core that he had swallowed began to respond to the circulation of nature's essence as it flowed through his body. As the essence constantly rushed into his body, it started getting stored in his limbs, his veins, and other parts of his body. The dragon core is indeed impressive. Jacob was amazed. The 9 acupoints in his body were slowly absorbing pure nature essence, giving him an indescribable pleasure. "How can this guy fall asleep when there's trouble lurking around him?" Sam said to the others, feeling resigned when he saw Jacob with his eyes closed. "Ouch!" Jacob suddenly yelled in pain, and his head bounced up from his desk. The teacher and the rest of the class began looking at the last row. Fortunately, none of them knew who yelled, and Jacob managed to lower his head in a hurry and pretend to act innocent. The teacher paused his lecture and shouted at all of them for the disruption. Since he couldn't catch the troublemaker, he soon resumed the class. Seeing that everything had settled down, Sam reached out and touched Jacob. "Hey, why did you yell like that? Oh my God, you're shivering. Are you feeling well?" he asked. "I'm fine." Jacob gritted his teeth and waved his hand at Sam. He wasn't sure what had happened to him. A moment ago, the 9 acupoints in his body were filled with energy, and the next moment, they started to hurt as if someone was piercing needles into him. His whole body was in so much pain that he felt like he was being split apart. Seeing Jacob sweating in pain, Sam was alarmed. "Are you okay?" he asked again. "I'm fine, really." Jacob held his breath and pressed his clenched fists against the desk. He felt acute pain in every inch of his bones. He couldn't describe it to his friends even if he wanted to. He realized that the tiredness and sleepiness from a moment ago and the tumbling pain in his body were all a part of the cultivation process. So painful! Even cultivating to the second level of the spirit concentration scroll, which is the most basic cultivation technique, is so painful. Will I survive on the rest of the cultivation path? Jacob gritted his teeth as all kinds of thoughts occupied his mind. He was afraid to cultivate any further at this point. The pain was finally over after a few minutes, and after taking a lot of deep breaths. Jacob looked down at his sweat-soaked shirt and then turned to his friends. They were all staring at him with astonishment and concern in their eyes. "I'm fine now. I had a cramp," Jacob explained. "Your whole body was twisting." Sam still sounded alarmed. With a bitter smile, Jacob brushed a palm over his sweaty face. He now understood why Sophie, the only daughter of a dragon king, was so weak in cultivation. She probably couldn't withstand so much pain. He remembered her words about the dangers of cultivation. Although the path of cultivation wasn't as scary as she had described, the risks involved were indeed high. He suddenly thought of Susan, who was also very young, but had become a heavenly level master already. That not only requires an unusual amount of talent, but immense tolerance and threshold for pain. In her office, Susan looked up at the clock and murmured to herself, "Well, the pain should have passed by now. If he isn't able to withstand such small hardships, he will never make it in the future." She put away the bottle of small golden pills she had in her hand. There was a reason she didn't give them to Jacob today. Inside the lecture hall, Jacob was oblivious. He had no idea that there were pills that could alleviate the pain. He stretched and found that every joint in his body was more flexible, and his strength had reached its peak. "Don't you think that Jacob is a bit taller all of a sudden?" one of his friends whispered to the other. He turned to look at Jacob. He didn't think Jacob had grown taller, but he believed that Jacob's presence felt different. His skin was smoother, his eyes brighter, and even his hair looked softer. The guy shivered in discomfort and thought, "What am I even thinking? Am I attracted to Jacob now?" "Okay, enough of this. There is a big decision ahead of you, and I think tonight you should—" Sam turned to speak to Jacob and paused in the middle of his sentence. For a second, Sam thought that the guy sitting next to him was someone else. He looked again and realized that the guy was indeed Jacob. Am I hallucinating? Or is Jacob looking attractive all of a sudden? Sam wondered and totally forgot what he was going to say. He then shook his head to get that weird, creepy thought out of his head and tried to find the end to his sentence. Right at that moment, when Sam was about to speak again, Jacob's cell phone vibrated. He thought it must be Kathy calling to ask him about tonight's confrontation. But when he answered it, he heard their cook, Uncle James's anxious voice. "Jacob, your grandmother's blood pressure has risen far too high, and she has fainted."
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.